Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Mark Blanchard. I'm the Public Sector Director for GovNews Direct, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our third week of bite-size online workshops at the Smarter Working Live conference. So these February workshops are running throughout this period of time. They're free of charge to attend. There's all different subjects that we're covering today. We're focusing on harnessing the value of data, and you've joined this session called the Principal Tool for Data Evaluation at DWP. Tell your colleagues about these sessions. Feel free to register for Smarter Working Live conference on the 1st of March. So I'm delighted to be joined by two guest panelists today. We have Claire Anderson, Senior Delivery Manager at DWP. Good morning, Claire. Great to have you with us.
Good morning.
And we have Mike Patchett, Head of Public Sector at Lakeside Software. Great to have you with us, Mike.
Thanks for letting me join.
So data is at the heart of public sector processes and decision making. Whilst digitalisation is undoubtedly opening up new possibilities and bringing widespread benefits right across the public sector, organisations are mindful to the challenges to overcome when it comes to data. And with our increased range of working locations, as I can see from the backgrounds of our panelists, and indeed the technology platforms that we all just love and hate at the same time, smarter working and the huge progress we've made in digitalisation is encouraging staff to create and share data responsibly, and it's vital that they do so. So what we did at Smarter Working, obviously we had an award on harnessing the value of data, and we asked organisations to enter that award category and to be able to demonstrate excellence in building data into their decision making. Looking at understanding the risk factors, ensuring safeguards are in place to maximize the responsible use of data within their organization. But specifically, we asked entries for that award nomination where we wanted to see projects that have used data to set work and workplace strategies, projects that have ensured the ability for people to work from anywhere while accessing systems is carefully monitored and managed. We were talking to organizations, forgive me, about projects which promote and encourage data and cybersecurity awareness and an understanding, giving teams the knowledge and information to remain constantly aware in different work settings. And looking at organizations and projects that have accelerated the delivery of safer processes and systems and software to unlock new, modern and smarter ways of working. So we had an award nomination from DWP called Harnessing Systrack Data to Protect Government Assets, and that award has been shortlisted. And Mike, I'm going to come to you first, if I may. Tell us what Systrack is.
Yeah, that's a good question. It probably sets the scene for where things are. I think over the last few years, public sector spent an awful lot of money on technology, buying equipment, buying software, buying systems. And really the question there is that technology working for people? Is it helping people? Is it delivering the benefits that people want to get out of the technology? Is it making their life better or worse? And what Systrack does, it's Lakeside Software publishes the product Systrack. It's a product that's got a 20-year pedigree now. So we've had it. Systrack's been around for 20 years. And what we do with Systrack is we gather phenomenal amounts of data, looking at how systems are working, how people are interacting with those systems, and really focused primarily on the digital experience that those people have and as they're interacting with the software and the systems. I think in DWP's case, we're collecting in the region of 6.2 billion bits of data every minute. And we're managing that data across the enterprise. We don't overload the storage. Systrack takes care of all of that in the background. But that data is then available for analytics, for being able to look at and to produce um, an intelligent understanding of how the technology is working for the people. Good, bad, where they are, and other things there as well. So it's really Systrack's all about the collection and the analysis and analytics that come from that data for people.
So, Claire, first of all, congratulations on being
Thank you.
shortlisted. Perhaps you could tell our listeners today about the project and indeed the submission that you've made thus far.
Yeah, sure. So, as you can imagine, the department was hit with several challenges when staff were instructed to work from home at the start of the COVID pandemic. So, a large portion of staff were issued with laptops and small desktop devices to support them working from home. However, this came with its own issues managing these assets and the security surrounding. Bearing in mind, there are roughly about 100,000 users across the estate, so it's a very large department. So, whilst there's currently policies and procedures and rules in place prohibiting the transport of devices abroad and also connecting through a network um, from locations outside the UK. These are all without prior permission. The department needed to understand if this policy was being breached in any way, and where staff had chosen to take their devices abroad and work from abroad during the lockdown period. So, as such, we had these requirements, and the team came up with the idea of a dashboard that could identify the location of the devices, and it's the devices, not the user. More specifically, device locations showing as being outside the UK. So the project we have submitted is how we've gone about identifying the locations outside the UK. How we were able to collect the information gathered, mapping devices to ISPs and countries, and putting this in a form of a display. So the information we've collected includes egress IP, data around the connections, the where the user has logged on, and anything relevant to the connection that was seen abroad. So we show 2 countries in order to doubly verify that the correct ISP in the correct country has been identified. We've also provided a locations map, so it's very visual, and each of the devices are visible across this actual map. So the dashboard is still being utilised now on a daily basis, even after COVID and the lockdown has completed, because the policies and procedures around working from abroad are still in place. So it's mainly used by our department security team, and once identified any devices abroad, it is then passed over to the investigation team to take forward. So that's a very high level, and it doesn't do the project justice of the amount of work that has actually gone into building this dashboard.
Mike, I'm going to come to you. Systrack, was it designed to be that governance tool? Because you talked about it being obviously all about digital experiences, users using hardware, software, needing updates, getting most out of their technology. But DWP seem to have been able to use it quite innovatively when it comes to managing risk and looking at the challenges of users abroad, which there's policies around taking devices. Was it designed that way, or is it just that the
So,
benefits are endless?
so I think we're kind of fortunate to a certain degree that our original founder and the person who designed the concept of Systrack had quite a big vision, quite a long vision, that you never know what the next question is that you're going to be asked whenever you're in this area. So if the data is available, we'll collect it. That is the philosophy we have. That data will be collected, it'll be stored. We're collecting about 10,000 different data points every 15 seconds. One of those happens to be the IP.
Mm,
Um, and we collect those at all the time. Now, an awful lot of the time, you don't need to look at all of that data. You're not being asked questions around that data. But the day when somebody comes in and says to you, we have this new challenge that we didn't see coming, can you help? If you haven't collected that data, let's say you chose only to collect the data specifically associated with end user experience, you wouldn't be able to answer the question because you then can't go and get that data. And I think our founder, when he saw it, knew that the power was going to be in the data. 20 years ago, he knew that data was going to be the most important thing. So by collecting that data and being able to manage that data efficiently, we're then able to be used to ask questions that maybe people didn't see coming.
mm.
An example a couple of years ago was when Oracle suddenly started charging for Java SE. Why would anybody track whether or not people were using a free piece of software? We did. And then when they started charging it, we were able to help people understand what their actual license exposure to it was. Just by collecting the data, if it's available, we'll collect it, we'll store it, and then if you ever need to look at it, you can then use it like DWP have. It's an incredibly creative way of using our data. It
You
wasn't a
just
standard
create a
dashboard.
dashboard
They've
and a
built
yeah.
they've built this visualization of the data, and it's incredibly clever to solve a business problem that they focused on.
Mm.
We just happen to have the data.
Fantastic. So that's a great summary of the award nomination, Claire, that you've put in. What other ways are you using Systrack at DWP? And again, were those kind of
Oh gosh.
predetermined, or have they sent you off in all other directions because you've realised that there's pots of gold in data in areas that can tell you so much?
So, as our knowledge within the team has expanded and the skills have broadened, more demands have been put on the team to harness this data and see what else we could be doing with it. So a couple of other examples of projects we've worked on. So as you're aware, Systrack is a way of capturing and analysing data on everything that may impact end user experience and business productivity. So the ask was to enrich the data that is currently held for the use of a level 1 incident management team, bearing in mind this is 300 plus users across the estate. So again, we built a dashboard that provides additional information to help support incidents that are being raised by the users. And it allows our level 1 guys to determine whether they can access the information or whether it requires pushing up to level 2 or level 3. And this is a very non-intrusive way of being able to find out the information. There is a wealth of information on what is being held on this dashboard. It's also able to access offline data. So if the user is offline, it can picture the health of the device before the user logged off from the last time the data condensed. So that's another very large project. It's very powerful out in the department. Another one is what's called the performance dashboard. And again, this was very much came to the forefront during COVID, where our management team were looking at the health of devices since the new ways of working had been introduced. So staff were working from home and connecting from various different locations, various different ways, whether it was Wi-Fi, whether it was Ethernet. And of course, some people were actually working from inside the department. So again, we built a dashboard to show the information of the health of devices. It includes boot time, battery health, network connections, just to name a couple. But based on the algorithm that we produced, we also introduced a traffic light system. So we gave it a health score and made it, again, very visual. So the reds, of course, if the health of a device was not doing well in any aspect, then it was very visible and stood out. It also, we also then developed a light version, so a summary of the main performance dashboard for our senior leaders, who were able to pick up the analytics of how well devices were performing outside of the offices. So these are only a couple of examples. It's been used to support a wide variety of activities, including patchworking, networking, fraud investigations, asset management, and we're currently exploring and utilising the sensors in order for the team to be more proactive as we move forward.
If I can just come in, Mark, when I think about the journey that Systrack and DWP have had together, when we first spoke and we first met with the department, they were coming out of probably a 15-year contract with an outsource provider. And the first use case that we started talking to them about was just understanding what they had, because within that 15-year contract, things had happened, things had changed, the contract had morphed, devices had come in, and the department themselves didn't have visibility during that outsourcing agreement of how their service was being delivered. They knew what was meant to be delivered, but how was it being delivered? So our first conversations were just about visibility of the assets and what software was being used on the other side there. That's sort of where things started. Very, very quickly, the team at the department started to understand how powerful the data could be. And I think we morphed out of that initial requirement into some investigations with the performance of the universal credit system quite early on, looking at how the software was doing there and where things, and that just expanded the awareness that once you have data, you can ask data questions. I think Claire and her team are constantly being approached now by people saying, could you help us with this?
Is that the case, Claire? That the more
Yes.
people in the organisation learning about Systrack, the more that you're being inundated with inquiries.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah. One of our new sort of customers out there is the fraud community, who are now asking us to, and it's to enrich the data they already hold.
Yes.
It's not just based on Systrack data, it's to actually enrich the data that's already hold. We also integrate with Splunk to provide the demands for that centric view across the Splunk database, and we are now looking to integrate with DWP Place in order to support the asset management and also the incident management within the department as well.
Mm. So, what kind of advice? Because obviously, if you think of our delegates today, all different sizes of government departments and agencies, public sector organisations, working from office-based or multiple locations, what do you think's they're relevant for them to kind of come away from today thinking about and addressing, and what kind of recommendations would you advise them to take if they're at their if this is their first kind of knowledge of what Systrack does? What would be the first step to take?
It's getting to know the tool. It's getting to know the tool. Our current Systrack team within the department understand the tool more, which provides them with the skills and the knowledge to develop all these user cases that are now implemented. We have pushed the boundaries of the capabilities of the tool. With Lakeside's help, because we need to work in partnership, but we also understand that when there is new information we are looking for, that we look to Lakeside and the flexibility of introducing further information into the tool, especially at the moment around sensors, the proactive work that we're doing. We can go to Lakeside and say, can you actually build this type of sensor so that we can actually implement a piece of work? So again, it's actually pushing it. Just keep pushing until you get what you need.
And we love clients like DWP drivers, because the best developments of a product, of a solution from a software vendor, are always driven by our clients. And the clients we have in UK public sector are some of the best at doing that. There's some particular use cases and particular ways of doing things, particular security considerations that have taken us down a direction. And that's why I have within the team a team of customer success managers whose job is to ensure that our UK public sector clients are getting what they want.
Yeah.
And
then sharing those use cases across others so that you can
across other public sector clients. Yes, I mean, if it's something particular to UK government, we'll share it, and that can be shared across UK government. We will. If it's one of our clients who's got particular sensitive natures and it can't be shared, it can't be shared. It's independent to them. And if it's something that could benefit the whole of the Systrack community, and the UK government client like DWP doesn't mind us sharing that with the whole of the community, we'll roll it out into the product. Absolutely.
Okay.
Even after 20 years, we're still finding, new and creative bits of data, creative ways to use the data, and building data integrations to other products using the API, such as the Splunk that you said about. 20 years ago, Splunk didn't exist, or didn't, and now we integrate to it.
Are you thinking that that's going to be a big growth area for you, for Systrack and Lakeside, Mike, in terms of sensors, IoT, all these types of things, in terms of how the data works and what it can tell you?
So the Internet of Things thing is an interesting question that we're looking at. We're certainly doing more and more work with kiosk-based products. So, with the Android type products and the Mac OS and iOS products, to enable people to do things in their kiosks and manage those sorts of things. Nothing worse than queuing up at a till in a supermarket or in an office, and the self-service thing just is rubbish, in all fairness. So being able to help with that is quite there. Data integrations with other areas. We have a phenomenal amount of data. Nobody collects more data than we do, but we're not necessarily the best people to exploit that data in every occasion. So having an open API so that data can be ingested into other solutions and utilized by other things. And likewise, if people are have data that we don't have, bringing that back in again within Systrack, so you can get the best visualization of what your data is telling you. Systrack or another platform is relevant. The data is absolutely at the heart of it.
So, Claire, obviously, we're talking smarter working. We're looking at an organisation of a vast size like DWP with staff in all different types of locations. How's Systrack helping you specifically with increasing performance amongst DWP employees? And I suppose what's their feedback been like in terms of when you, as the team, are able to get in contact with people saying, "Look, your device clearly isn't working for you. Let's look at this. Let's do that." What's been the employee feedback?
So the great thing about Systrack is it can also work as non-intrusive. So there's two aspects to this. One is that we use the tool to fix issues without actually the user knowing. So the fact that the incident management ratios have gone down is feedback in itself, in the respect that these are all being, it's been fixed before we actually get to that stage. However, the users using the actual dashboard, so for instance, the level 1 dashboard that went out, how we done it, we set up alpha users as a proof of concept. We set up a feedback loop in order for them to feed in, oh, it would be nice to have this, or this doesn't work right, etc. So the tool is then changed to fit those requirements. And alongside that, which you can actually access from the level 1 dashboard, is a platform. One is a learning and development, so it's got how to use that particular dashboard, but it's also got the feedback form on it. So users can then go in, but it's actually users of the tool rather than the end user, because the end user is not impacted so much about it. It's only the end user is only impacted when we have to get in contact with something wrong with the device.
Fascinating. So, what does the future look like in terms of the tool? What's the next big thing at DWP? And
So the next big
are you
thing,
able to share that?
the next big thing we're doing at the moment is actually moving to Lakeside Cloud.
Right.
So we are actually at the moment we are working on prem, but we've actually started the migration to cloud. We are using cloud first devices, so they're the first device that have actually gone into our cloud environment. Currently, the agent was not on any cloud first devices, so they were not being picked up by the department, but they can now. Which is great, because so the data is only getting better because it's getting wider. And once we are all settled in with that, we are actually going to move all our on-prem Windows 10 devices into the cloud as well. So that is a huge piece of work that's going on just now.
And the Systrack Cloud Mark, this is another great example of how our UK government clients drove us in a particular direction we hadn't foreseen. So we use the standard cloud platforms that most people would be used to. But we had clouds. We had our cloud platforms based in Europe and America, in order to work with some of the UK government sides, especially some of the more sensitive ones, who we now have on on our Systrack cloud. We stood up a cloud specifically in the UK, the capability to have individual tenants in that cloud platform rather than multiple tenants, and went through the process of getting that security checked around our cloud platforms specifically to make it easy for our government clients to be using our cloud product. Has a big advantage because then we're managing the infrastructure that runs Systrack, a lot of data to run. We manage all of that, and you don't have to have the on-premise teams running that. So yeah, that drove us in a different direction. We wound up standing up a UK-based cloud infrastructure where we didn't foresee that to start off with.
Right. Claire, was that a key decision in moving from on-prem to cloud? Was it that data sovereignty?
Absolutely. It was. We wouldn't have been able to move forward with the Lakeside Cloud if it had not been based within DWP. There is a huge, which brings us right back round to that loop of the offshore working dashboard that we used in our submission around the security and the sensitivity of the data that is held within the department is absolutely paramount. So it has to be in a Lakeside Cloud, and it has to be a single tenant.
I suppose a lot of our watchers and listeners today will probably be in a scenario maybe not as advanced as yourself, Claire, and what DWP are at right now. What was your environment like prior to Systrack? You know, what was the I suppose the environment that you worked in like before then, and the challenges and struggles that you were having before obviously adopting this technology?
So the department has many different tools within its area, and in order to get some form of information that is meaningful, it basically had to pull together information from various sources. And the trouble with doing that is they never all always align. So during COVID, for instance, we had what was called Gold Command, and it was a dashboard and it was a view of what was happening on a daily basis in order to support the delivery of the business out there. But it's made it easier to have all the information in one place, and it's also made it that we can enrich those other tools that we've got out there in order to, for instance, Splunk, which makes sure that all the information is in one place and gives a centric view.
Mike, I could see you nodding. I think that one thing everyone appreciates in public sector is they've got really complex, probably legacy IT environments made up of all different things of all different sizes. And how does kind of Systrack work in that environment where, let's say, I'm a newly formed unitary local authority with different systems from different local councils all coming together? Where's the opportunity?
Everybody has a lot of tools, and this is one of the things that we're very aware of. There's a lot of different sources of information, a lot of different areas there. If somebody has all of the information that they need in the right visualizations that they need, they probably don't need Systrack. In all fairness, if you've already got it, why would you get something else to do it? But if there's holes in the amount of visibility you have about the systems that you have in place, how they're working, and other sides there, bringing in the data that we're able to bring in can give you that more holistic viewpoint. and become a single point of focus for what's going on within the organization from the perspective of the digital user. What we tend to find, a lot of people have got infrastructure based tools, so they know that the servers are working, they know that things are on or off and networks are working and other stuff. It's that view of how the user is perceiving their interaction with the stack that Systrack can bring to the organization. What are your users experiencing? That's often gained through very, very subjective feedback if people are complaining. But 99% of the time, if somebody has a problem with their system, they don't report it to the help desk. They just turn the machine off and turn it on again, and they don't report it. And so there's a need for the objective view of what's going on from the digital experience, in order to get that proper view. And that's become really, really critical when we start looking at this hybrid way of working that we're never getting away from, however much certain politicians want everybody going back into the office. The local cafe doesn't go out of business. We have to accept that people have got used to this hybrid way of working, and you can't just pop down to somebody's desk to fix a problem in the way that you could a few years ago. There needs to be the ability to understand problems remotely at a level that there never was, and that's where data really comes in.
And fix or address those problems before they even
Yeah,
become a problem.
yeah. With the power of automations, if we've got really, really good data, so we combine, maybe 100 or 200 different data points into, Claire mentioned sensors. Well, sensors have got some basic algorithms around them that says if this data flag happens, this data flag happens, and this data flag happens, it triggers a sensor to say that this problem is appearing. Well, from those sensors, then you can build automations to address problems, and either fire those automations manually. So, oh, hold on, we've seen this device is having this problem. Fire that. Or if you see a problem that's getting incredibly wide, some of the malware that we're seeing now, our sensors are getting triggered by that malware, and you can automatically address those things across the entire estate in seconds by using automation as well. Having control over those automations, because there's an awful lot of power in that, so you need to have the right sort of checks and balances on who can write them, who can authorize them, and other things there, and how they can be fired. All of that's built into the solution, so you can then get much more proactive on how you're addressing things. We should get to the point where people never phone up to say they've got a problem, because we've already fixed it.
Impressive. Is that what it's like, Claire? Then, of all those tickets, they don't exist anymore.
There are several tickets that don't. Obviously, we're not at the stage where there are no tickets. But so, for instance, we have an automation that runs to clear down profiles on devices, excluding the current profile, because it takes up the space, and eventually the user ends up having issues around the device because the space is full. So we worked with the level 1 and level 2 guys, done some analysis on big tickets that were being raised, what's common issues out there, and then took it back to the board and said, right, what sensors, what automations do we have that we could support our level 1 and level 2 guys by putting some automations in place, and that's what we've done.
Fantastic. Well, I've pretty much covered all my questions and all my insight that I wanted to ask. It sounds like a fascinating project. I can really appreciate why it's been shortlisted, and thank you for sharing that with us, Claire.
Thank you.
Mike, I know that you're going to be on the booth for our
Yes.
delegates afterwards. So there's going to be some content on there, an opportunity to talk to you directly if anyone's got any questions about the technology.
Yes, absolutely. If anybody's got any questions, so feel free to drop by the booth. I'll be there. I'll have one of my colleagues with me who's much cleverer than me, so he can answer any difficult questions, or we can have a conversation about Systrack as you need to.
Excellent. Well, I think such a number of takeaways, I think, from this session, but to really understand the principal tool for data evaluation at DWP, Mike Patchett, Claire Anderson, thank you very much for sharing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.